Hey, Steve Gardner here. Want to talk about inspections, some tips and facts about them when purchasing a home. This is the second step really in a process when you're purchasing a home. My last video, I talked about getting pre-qualified in home mortgages, but the home inspection is real important. Any client that I have or a customer I'm working with, I always recommend they do a home inspection. You have this beautiful house you've fallen in love with, you've gone under contract, and then that's what you get behind you. All right. Behind the pretty paint and all that kind of stuff. We don't want that. We don't want that house. So unless you're paying for that house. But anyway, so let's talk about these things. So when you do an inspection, and I'm referring to Florida for the most part in my experience, there are 4 types of inspections that are very common that on almost every contract I do. And there's a couple of optional ones that I recommend to my sellers, just depending on what my buyers, what's important to them. First of all, you want to have a main inspection done on the house. So basically you hire an inspector. I've got quite a few that are great that I've used for years and years and years that I recommend to my customers. They pick one out. We do the inspection on a 2,000 square foot house. It maybe take about 2 hours to do, one guy or a team of 2. And you do a main inspection, and basically the inspector they'll look at everything, pretty much everything. They get up on the roof, they check the electrical, they open and close the windows, doors, they check the plumbing, make sure the water flow is correct, make sure the AC, the heating system's working properly. Pull the electrical panel cover off, look at the electrical, make sure it's all right, check all the outlets, make sure everything's grounded right. If it's a crawl space, looking in the crawl, just making sure the plumbing underneath there is good. Your foundation on the house, checking that out. All those things, cracks in the driveway, sidewalks, everything from irrigation, if he has an irrigation system in the yard, the sprinkler system, does it work? All those things, appliances, they check the appliances in the house, the refrigerator, make sure the refrigerator's cooling to temperature, that the freezer's working, the stove, all the burners work, it's getting up to temperature, dishwasher runs, it drains, sinkerator. All those little things need to be looked at and should be looked at. The other thing is what's called a 4-point inspection, which I recommend to my customers. And it's pretty common now. Most of your good inspectors just automatically give it, which is basically an insurance inspection. So when you go to purchase a home, the insurance company, anything that's not brand new, is going to require a 4-point. You don't ever send the inspection company the full inspection report. You send them the 4-point, which is basically a condensed version. Roof, HVAC, which is your air conditioning and heat, plumbing, and electrical. The big systems on the house, they have to pass, okay? Roof has to be a certain age. It can't be in disrepair. Electrical has to be up to code, no crazy Florida Pacific, Federal Pacific boxes, that sort of thing, bust fuses. So the insurance company, they'll look at the hot water heater, see the age of that, make sure everything is working. Otherwise, you can't get insurance. Or if you get insurance, it's going to be expensive or more expensive. So, and right now, Florida are having issues right now, personally, in 2021 with roofs. Most of the insurance companies we're having a hard time. Anything that's a roof that's 15 years or older, they just don't want to write on it. So we're running into that right now. Even if the roof is fine, that's something that we're having to deal with. Anyway, that's on a side note. Another inspection is a WDO, and it's the most important. It's a wood destroying organism report. And I bet the house behind me probably has some of these little critters. It's termite and fungus, ants, carpenter ants, anything that's going to eat the house. In Florida, we have we have termite issues. Up north, you have drywood termites. Down here, we have drywood and subterranean. If the ground doesn't freeze, you have subterranean termites. And you want to make sure that the house doesn't have that, because that's kind of some hidden things you can't find. So always get a WDO inspection. They also look for fungus, wood rot, and that sort of thing. One of the other inspections, which is real important, is called a wind mitigation inspection, which is basically specific to the roof. It looks at the tie downs in the roof, the age of the roof, the trusses, how it's secured to the walls and foundation. And this can be a huge savings in insurance. If you get a nice wind mitigation report back and it passes, it could save you $400 to $800 a year in insurance. So a wind mitigation report is super, super important. It's like $75 and it could save you a lot of money. So we did the main inspection, the 4-point, the wind mitigation, and the WDO. Some optional inspections that you could look at would be a mold inspection. In Florida, we're a very humid climate. There's mold outside, inside, everywhere. But we're not worried about that so much as we're worried about the hidden ones. Let's say there's a pipe that's been leaking behind a wall in a shower, or a leak in a roof, or a HVA system that's not properly ducted and it's got mold growing in it. Because to some people, it's very allergic. They're allergic to it, and it causes health issues. So what I recommend with my customers generally, unless a client really is concerned about or has a precondition, is if my inspector or the inspector they use is doing the inspection and they find some water issues or some moisture during the main inspection, I'd probably recommend they do a mold inspection. Let's check it out, make sure there's no issues, because it's a serious thing. Some people are highly affects them greatly as far as their health. Then there's a lead-based paint inspection and a radon inspection. Lead-based paint, anything prior to 1978. Don't see as much as that. A lot of the older houses, that one behind me does have probably lead-based paint. 1920s, 50s houses, a lot of it. And, if kids chewed on a windowsill or a crib, it's not good for you. But generally, not many people do a specific one. And then there's radon gas, which is real popular up in the Panhandle area. But I'm on the east coast of Florida, Daytona area. We don't have that here per se. So I've never had anybody in 17 years order one of those. As far as timing on an inspection, 2,000 square foot house, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, without a pool, about 2 hours. It should run you about $400 to $500 to do the main inspections, the ones I mentioned, the 4, the wood destroying organism, the main, the 4-point, and the wind mitt. But once again, it's really important that you do one, unless you're buying a house that's going to be basically gutted and you're an investor type and you're construction and that doesn't bother you, then what's the point if you're going to be tearing it down to studs. But I always recommend that as a buyer you have an inspection, and when you're listing a house, in certain cases I will recommend a seller have a pre-inspection so we avoid any initial problems. When we go under contract, we've taken care of it. We can present the buyer with a nice, clean inspection. Of course, they can use their own inspector, but we've got something to show them to say, hey, we've had this house looked at. It's for the most part in tip-top shape. So I hope you found this useful. If you want a list of inspectors or want some more information about this, more about this topic, please feel free to reach out to me. Thanks. Take care.